morning.
Good morning.
Happy beautiful Friday on Daily Dose. Whew.
Oh, it's also the official first federal holiday.
No, tomorrow.
Oh, it's celebrated on the work day.
Oh.
So
Oh, wow.
today.
So happy Juneteenth, one day early. That's unbelievable. Kind of unbelievable that we have a day that celebrates when we stopped enslaving people. But incredible that we are finally recognizing it.
Something I didn't know is that this is actually the day where the final slaves were liberated in Texas 2 years after the Civil War ended because no one told them.
Well, to be fair to the lack of technology, did you know that John Adams was in Europe raising money for the Revolutionary War long past when the war had been won?
Actually, when we saw the
John Adams.
The John Adams HBO thing.
I learned it in the book, David McCullough's book, which is not a super page turner, but well worth reading as we move into the 4th of July. I am not saying that those founding families didn't bring complex problems with them. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the Southern slaveholders shouldn't be held accountable for owning humans. I'm just saying that's an amazing book. And interestingly, he and Abigail were ardent abolitionists. So there's that piece to it. Okay, back to the subject at hand. This has been a crazy week for me. It's crazy. I think I've referenced that before. I launched...
You got through it with grace, though.
Well, okay, thank you. I launched a new talk yesterday, which took a lot of time and has kind of worn me out. So between that and the fact that the dog's hardly sleeping at night, which means I'm hardly sleeping at night, and just a variety of things. So today's questions are a little more sort of statement-driven, conversational, than perhaps real questions, although there are some. So let's stop with the prefacing and get right to it. We're coming back to the social world, and that can cause some anxiety. The article we referenced on Monday encouraged people to take their time getting back into the world. That's true for all of us, addicts or not. Can you be okay with saying no if you are feeling uncomfortable? And can you decide to pay attention and honor your mental health first and foremost? We know that so much of what causes people to fall into bad habits or to slip back into bad habits of any kind is that your mental health is not on track. And so can you just decide that you're going to prioritize your mental health the same way you prioritize making your first cup of coffee or tea or getting your kids to school on time or any of those things? Probably, and you certainly, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this, but probably the state of your mental health is the most important oxygen mask you can put on, and the one that we maybe often pay the least attention to. Do you have thoughts on that?
One of the things I learned, or was taught in rehab, it wasn't just me who learned it, is, they would say you have to have a plan B and a plan C, and we talked about this, but they said when you first start off, you need a D, an E, an F, and a G.
Say a little bit more about that in case somebody has not heard us talk about this.
When I first got out of... Here's an example of what I put in place. When I was just released, I think I just hadn't graduated, but we went to a fundraiser for...
Who cares?
I think it was the Fargo-Moorwood Opera or something, I don't know. So it was at the Holiday Inn. It was a gala dinner. We had got a table with two friends who were dying to see the two of us. So my plan was, if I couldn't handle it, I think the B was, I'll go home.
Well, A was that you would just not drink.
Yeah.
B was that wasn't it about walking around the perimeter?
I would go outside and walk around because it's a big building. There's like 4 event halls connected to each other. You could actually, it's a good walk around it. Go for a walk around that or go outside. And it went all the way up to, we had to go home emergency with a dog or something. But we worked all this out as if it's too much for you, what can you do?
Contingency plan.
So if you just needed a breath, you go outside. You needed a bigger breath, you walk around the inside of the building, or walk around the outside of the building, or, step out and go home.
Yeah.
So all those plans gave me a kind of peace of mind that I knew if I felt uncomfortable being in this room, because it's a gala, it was a fundraiser, there was wine flowing all up the wazoo. So, those contingency plans are important, but having them there, and didn't need them, never have needed them, but they're there, they're always in the back of my mind, and that makes you feel better.
Yeah, and it preserves your mental health. And so that's true for all of us. You may have read, I have written a lot about this event I went to called Renaissance Weekend, which is not about jousting and turkey legs, but about thought, sort of the true meaning of Renaissance, which was this rebirth of science and art and that kind of intellectual conversation. And it was terrible. It was truly, truly probably the worst experience of my life. I mean, I left the conference many times and went back to my hotel room and sobbed because I was treated so poorly for being a state school educated, North Dakota native, tiny arts executive person. Terrible, truly terrible. That has changed the way I go out into the world now. Absolutely shifted me from walking confidently into a room of strangers to having a lot of trepidation. And I have had to come up with plan A, B, C, D for myself because otherwise I can't go into the room. And so it's not about only addicts have to do this. We all have to do it. And if you don't think that's true, then hearken back to your junior high self standing with your lunch tray, maybe not having a place to sit. Hearken back to that version of yourself, and you will understand how important a plan B, C, D is.
Yeah.
Because mental health is the first great derailer of almost everything that bothers us. I'm not going to pull my knee down, Mother. It's so comfortable. This is a casual program.
And you're 47.
And I'm 47. Thank you, though, for putting that out for all the world to see. I sure appreciate that. Okay. Next question. Relapsing.
Is it too late? Are you never too old to be mothered?
No, you certainly are not. Relapsing is a great fear for addicts and those who live with them. Does a relapse have to be inevitable? What do you think?
Doesn't have to be. Sure, you get prepared for it so you know what's coming, but the biggest mistake is to live your life thinking it's going to happen, because that way you're not living your life. This actually goes back to the first question, in my opinion. Have a backup plan, but don't dwell on your backup plan. Just know it's there, and then go forward and see what happens.
It's no different than families should have a plan for how would we all get out if there was a fire, or how would we all get ourselves to the basement if there was a tornado warning. We should have contingency plans in place. That doesn't mean you wake up every single day and say to your children, all right, what would we do if there was a fire? You have the plan in place. You practice the plan from time to time so that it stays present, but you don't start every day with it. You don't use it as a reason to be so afraid that a fire might come that you can't just enjoy being in your house. So yeah, you're right. Talking about it this week has reminded me that it could come to our house.
Yeah.
You could relapse. Just this morning. So I was up last night from about 11:30 to 1. And I found out when Maz got up that he was up from about 1:30 to 3. And he got out of bed and went downstairs. I would be lying to you and to you if I didn't say to you, did you drink?
Yeah.
And then this morning, as I was getting ready for this, I watched him walk by with 2 bottles that he put in the recycle bin. And I had an immediate thought of, is that beer? Okay, Neither of those things are true. You did not drink. Did you have non-alcoholic beer? So those non-alcoholic bottles were from earlier in the evening. I will always probably have that first thought of, did you get up and drink? And then I can set it down. I can't control that it's my first thought. All I can control is that I believe that today he did not get up from 1:30 to 3 and drink. And until I'm proven wrong, then I have to trust that it didn't happen. I don't believe you did.
I know, but it's sad. This is actually a good example of what this disease does to other people too. You probably will always have that thought in your head. But
Yes.
the good thing is that you also know that I did have a coffee, which is a stupid thing to do at 1:30 in the morning. I will give you that. But that's what I did.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, living with an addict, you are going to have that feeling. And if you are the addict, here's a piece of advice for you from me that I mean from the heart. Remember, it's your fault they think that way.
Yeah, you know, that makes me so, makes me feel really bad when you say that. And this isn't about me. But the reason that it makes me feel bad is because, in essence, what it says to the addict is that you can never truly set down your addict phase. You will pay the price for that for the rest of your life. Which I guess we all pay the price for the decisions that we make, good and bad. But I don't think of it that way. I don't
That's
think to
interesting.
myself, God damn it. Why did I have that thought? Oh, that's right. That's because it's his fault that he became an addict in the first place, which pushed me into doubting that he was in the basement not drinking, and now I still think it. I don't think of it that way.
But if I think of it that way, and what I suggest to everyone is the addict, that way you're not going to stupidly have an argument, because you can sit there and go, yeah, my fault.
Fault just feels like too strong a word. It feels like, yes, you brought this into our lives. But I don't view it as a
That's
fault.
interesting.
I
Let's
view
bless
it
you.
as an experience. Just like, you know what? When I first met you, and perhaps still, you wanted to have biological children. I said no. Whose fault is it that he doesn't have children?
Well,
Mine.
I do kind of.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. But we're long past that.
No, I mean, I consider Quinn to be.
Oh, yeah, but he's not your biological
know that.
child.
I know that.
So my point is, it's my fault that Masmary does not have a biological child. I don't blame myself for that. It's a choice that I made. I was very clear about it. I'm sorry for you that you have had to recalibrate your life.
Well, it wasn't the first time.
I just think it's an interesting thing. I'm not telling you can't view my reaction to your being in the basement
No,
as
this
your
is-
fault, but that feels way too.
Well, it's interesting that you say that.
It feels like you're taking too much blame. Yes, it was a terrible thing. Okay, lots of terrible things happen, and lots of times good can only come out of terrible things. So, I don't know. I don't have an answer to it, and I'm not telling you to stop saying it. And I appreciate, let me say this. I appreciate the grace with which you manage the fact that 4.5 years later, you know that my first thought is still, were you drinking? Even if I don't say anything about it, you know that that's my first thought. And you don't say to me, for God's sake, stop. You never say that to me. You just take it.
Yeah.
So there's grace and blame and forgiveness and all of the complexity to be had on all sides of this, for sure. If someone comes to you and says they are an addict or are connected to one, can you check your initial reaction to let them know they won't be successful? I had completely forgotten about that conversation I had with that friend of mine until you brought it up. So rather than telling someone, oh, they can't stay sober, or you can't stay sober, first of all, how do you know?
Everyone's different.
How do you know? Any more than if somebody comes to me and says, boy, I got my 5-year check, I'm cancer free, and I say to you, oh yeah, but you know it'll come back. I don't know that. Lots of people live cancer free, and lots of people don't.
Dan, by the way, that is the worst thing you can actually say to a cancer survivor.
Yes.
Just throw it in there.
I don't believe an oncologist would say that to a cancer patient. And if an oncologist who's an expert in cancer won't say it, then who the hell do you think you are to say it? So check your judgment, or check your helpfulness. I'm going to helpfully remind you that they probably can't, so don't get your hopes up. That's not helpful.
Actually, if you do say that and it is your first thought, I do believe that's one of the hallmarks of being a narcissist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I know I'm not.
And you know, I am a little, so it's a good reminder for me. So there's that.
Next question.
Oh no, the second part to that
I'm
is
sorry.
simply this. Offer your help. And if you can't offer your help because you truly don't believe that they can stay that way, then say this: I wish you very, very great luck. And move on. That's all you have to do.
That's good.
I didn't tell my friend that you were an alcoholic so that she could save us. I told my friend that you were an alcoholic because it fit into the conversation. I wasn't asking for her help. It's not unlike the year that I was pregnant. A very, very dear friend of mine's mother dropped her off at my apartment, and I said, your mother can come up. She dropped her off so that she could drop something off for me. I said, your mother can come up. And she informed me that her mother would not come up because I was such a sinner for being unmarried and having gotten pregnant. Guess what? I was not going to ask her mother for money. My friend wasn't going to catch premarital sex from me. And what was it to her? Okay, that's fine. You want to operate from a place of judgment? That's fine, but what a not Christian thing to do. So, whatever. Check your judgment. That's really what this comes down to. And I'm saying it as much to myself as I am to you. Consider making a personal matrix. What are the two themes, idea, mission points that make the lines that intersect your life? I think there's a lot of real value to this. Whether it's time and meaning, or being present and maintaining your job, or so many of us today come from very messy, big mixed families. Your ex's children and your new person's parents,
family,
and
extended families, yeah.
the extended family. You can view that as, oh, I can't make room for them, or you can say, hey, that's my matrix. So how do you make this thing work, and where can you low prioritize some things? Not everything can be at the top of both lines, or you will not make it. Your mental health will fall down, your physical health will fall down, your happiness will fall down. So really measure out, where is stuff high on joy, high on obligation, high on responsibility, and where can some stuff move down so that it might be high on joy, low on responsibility. Okay, you might decide that you must value that. Holy buckets, we're way past.
It's all right, keep going.
I just want to say this. Mr. Wilson, thank you
Oh my
for
gosh.
yesterday's conversation.
I gotta say that.
Please do.
We've listened to a lot of spectacular conversations, but I actually, no offense to anyone else, but I think this one was the most honest and pure conversation I've listened to in this year. So thank you for that.
I thought he said something really powerful. He was talking about he and his wife, and he said, we thought we were high jumping, but we were already pole vaulting. So think about that. The high jump, the long jump, requires just what you can do with your own inner energy. How hard can you push off the ground with your legs and go over something or go past something? A pole vault gives you assistance, lifts you up, and then it's up to you where you go. That is a really profound way to think about life. What can you do from your own base?
Yes, it is.
And what is the pole that lifts you up? And in his case, it was a negative, because the pole vault was that they thought maybe their daughter was just drinking. Turns out she was using meth. That's a pole that you could never get over that hurdle without. But it can also be a positive. So there were lots of things that he said. I'll include some of the other questions that we wrote. But powerful
Yes,
conversation. Hard to hear. Hard to hear a parent say there were moments when it would have been easier if she had died than to live through what they lived through. Think about that. Think about that. So, on that happy note,
Yeah, have a great weekend.
have a good weekend.
No,
Enjoy,
think about
enjoy
it. I
your
mean,
time.
we've run out of time here. There was a couple of other questions there, but you can read them if you like them, and subscribe and get the newsletter, and hit like as well, please. If you
Please
like
do.
it.
Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
See you Monday.
Bye.